Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in, and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Episode 48, and luckily Mike didn't get picked up by law enforcement, the United States Marshals. He's actually made it to the show. He didn't get picked up like Avery Sparrow did at in Carson, California, right, Mike?
I know. I was lucky. We get to celebrate our 1 year anniversary together, Danny.
We did 1 year doing the Last Round Podcast. Once again, guys, thanks for listening. I'm Danny Z with my co-host Michael Shepard. This is episode 48 of the Last Round, off a weekend of fights on DAZN, on ESPN. Tyson Fury, Jaime Munguia fought on DAZN down here in Carson, California. We had a pretty busy weekend. Mike was in Vegas for the Fury fight. I was in Los Angeles for the DAZN fights, for the Munguia fight. So the Last Round had you covered on coverage, and we're going to dive deep into those in reviews towards the latter part of the show. But before we get to that part of the show, of course, we have a special guest on the line who has actually played a big part, probably the most important part of the weekend, because he was just interviewed by TMZ today and some other outlets. And I'm sure, everybody who listens to this is obviously a boxing fan. And even if you didn't watch the fight, I'm sure you saw the pictures of Tyson Fury's cut, which was above his right eyebrow, right, Mike? Left eyebrow. Well, the person we got on the line is probably the best person to talk about that cut at that moment during that fight. And it's his cut man from this past Saturday night at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Jorge Capetillo is on the line. Thank you for joining us, Jorge.
No, thank you guys for taking the time for doing the interview. I feel very happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. So let's just start. As I mentioned, you were the cut man there Saturday night for the main event on ESPN, Tyson Fury and Otto Wallin. Let's just start with, okay, the cut happened in which round? Do you remember?
In the third round.
In the third round. Okay, so when you were watching there in the corner, were you able to tell when exactly it happened?
Yeah, it was by the left overhand. The Otto throw to Tyson and hit on the right eyebrow, and he opened a cut which was probably like a 3-inch long white cut.
So as soon as you saw that punch from that overhand, did you already immediately know? Did you turn to his trainer Ben Davidson and say, "Hey, I think he's cut. I'm ready to do my job"? Were you ready at that moment because you knew that? I think you saw the blood coming.
Yeah, we always get ready for, in boxing, and anything can happen. We gotta be ready to face any situation during the fight, and of course when the left blow hit on Tyson, and he moved away. We always, one of my jobs is to keep my eyes on his face and make sure that I can see the cut, with anticipation. So when I see that he was bleeding, I know, and I told Ben, I need to go to the center so I can work on the cut. Ben give me the trust, and that's where it all started.
What tricks of the trade did you have to use, Jorge, to stem the bleeding? Vaseline, adrenaline. Yes,
I have to use sticks with gas that I prepare, and of course adrenaline plays a big part of to control the bleeding. Make the pressure clean, apply the adrenaline, and still with Vaseline. But it was so deep, man. It was so deep that I was just trying to put the most Vaseline possible, so so the blood don't come up to the eye, and the heel and the cut can be a little bit still. because Otto was coming over and over to try to open the cut wider.
How many fights have you done with Tyson?
This is my second fight, my second camp. I'm also have work with them as an assistant trainer as well, assistant Ben, and this is my second camp.
So when he first came to the corner after getting cut, and you were the first time you were able to see it right in front of you, were you surprised at how deep it was? Were you saying like, okay, this is a very, very big cut. It's obviously going to get worse at the time as the fight goes on. So were you surprised at how deep it was?
Yes. To be honest, I was very, very surprised, very concerned about it. I know that I have to put on my effort to control the bleeding. And on the third round, Tony Weeks came to the corner and said, "What's up? A headbutt, accidental headbutt." So we know if the fight will stop, we go to the card. If we don't cross the fourth round, it should be a no contest. But in the next round, he came up to the corner and said it was the legal punch. So now the whole situation changed, because if the fight got stopped, we would lose by TKO.
That's true, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what we wanted to ask you. Was Tyson or was Ben Davidson or your guys' team? I mean, obviously that was in the back of your mind. You guys were a little bit nervous about that, especially when Tony Weeks said that it wasn't a headbutt. Was that affecting Tyson at all in terms of like a mentally or anything like that, from what you can see?
Of course, a cut of that magnitude, of course, changed everything. It changed the game plan. It changed the it can distract you because you feel in the cut, especially with that magnitude. But Tyson is a fighter. He's a former world champion, a lineal heavyweight champion with a lot of experience. So it was just a matter to keep control the bleeding and give Tyson rounds, so he can win the fight, and that's what happened.
So you obviously you mentioned that, especially when Tony Weeks said that it was from a legal punch, so that changed the whole mentality of your job. Was there at any point throughout the fight where you thought, oh man, you know what, it might get stopped right here? Was there at any point throughout that fight?
No, you know what? We was just focused. And what were we doing on the corner? That was part of Tony Weeks' job, of the commission, the doctor. My job was to keep clean the cut. So when the doctor come and see, they can see that I was working on it. Because a cut like that, you can stop it. You just control it. But you need to understand that by the fourth round, when he came against the corner, that was the second cut in the lip of the eye.
True. Yeah.
So that was even worse,
So you had two cuts to deal with. That's true. I forgot about the second one, because the bigger one was right above the eyebrow, and then the smaller one was right like on the eyelid or something like that, right?
Yes, and the lip. Yes, exactly.
So then you had to deal with both of those, and even on the broadcast, and I remember because Mike was there live in the arena, and he was texting me saying, "Hey, the cut looks pretty bad, and he's bleeding a lot. This fight could be stopped." But how much if you had to guess, how much Vaseline did you have to use that night?
Oh, more. I hold tubs of Vaseline. The ref would tell us not to put so much Vaseline, but my work is to stop the bleeding one way or another, bro. That's the job for them to tell me not to put too much, but my job is to keep the blood, control, and no matter what, to be honest, no matter how much Vaseline you gotta use, you just gotta be a professional, make sure that you're doing the job and get the job done.
What did you think about? I forgot which exact round it was, but I'm sure you guys remember. What did you think about when they were in a clinch, Otto and Tyson, and then Tony Weeks separated them, and then Otto with his right hand, he like scratches, or with his glove, he like scratches Tyson Fury's head. Obviously it was a dirty move, What did you think about that when they were getting separated out of the clinch, and then Otto Wallin goes and like tries to scratch with his glove?
No, you know what? Of course, the Joe, which is a coach with a tremendous experience, and we know that he was sending him to, to scratch, to touch, to with the head. He was touching the crowd with the gloves, with the arms, with the head. He was just touching to open it. And I don't blame him. I mean, this is a battle, and you gotta do what you gotta do. But of course, I think it was a bad move, But when the fighters do something like that, I mean, there's frustration as well, So I know that the Fury has the more experienced man inside the ring. So it was just a matter to keep the Rams coming alive.
Would you say the Jorge, that's the worst cut you've had to deal with in your cutman career so far?
Yeah, yes, man, that's the worst cut I ever see and I ever work.
Well, before that cut that you had to work on this past Saturday night in Las Vegas, is there one that you remember that was the worst cut before for another fighter?
Yeah, I have a fighter named Cesar Valenzuela, which just we defeat one of LA fighters, Christian Chimpo Gonzalez.
Oh yeah,
in
that's
the
right.
Velasco Theater.
The Golden Boy.
And he got cut in both fights. So I'm his chief trainer, but sometimes we don't have the full support to hire a cutman. So that's what I started learning. Is when I started in this business. Working with fighters, I know that I have to learn every side of the corner, because you never know when you're gonna need to do the job, So yeah, with Cesar it was both eyes, and they were deep too, but not like Fury's.
Were you? Because obviously, we're assuming that Tyson Fury is the biggest fighter. Not just physically, but in terms of most famous fighter that you've ever had to work with. Is that true?
Yes, it's one of the most with more projection. I used to work with Jorge Linares as well. We make 6 defenses of the world title. I work with the Jordanis Ugas too. So I have former world champion Jesse Magdaleno, which was fought on the LA Bank in Los Angeles like 5 weeks ago. So, I've been around in the business for a little bit, and time brings experience.
How did you end up working with Tyson?
Working in the gym, in the Super Gym, assisting him and, in anything the camps need. And one day he came to me and said, "Hey, man, I like to work, and I would like you to enjoy my team." So to me, I have to praise God for that, and I feel really blessed.
What I'm assuming you're obviously, this is your second fight with him. So the first fight was the Tom Schwartz fight. That's right,
Yes.
right? And now you're doing the second fight. So we're assuming that you're probably going to do, if it happens in February, which they're saying it should be, you're going to do the Wilder rematch as well?
Yes. God willing, we'll be there. We'll be there on the in the camp again.
And then obviously today you revealed, I think, to TMZ that Tyson gave you a nice bonus after the fight, right?
Yeah. You know what? When we got to the locker room, he came to me, gave me a big hug, and he just thanked me, and he feel really good about my work. Even in the corner, one of my jobs is to keep confidence. I have to make him feel the confidence that I was taking care of the cut. I never show like nervous, or never show that I was out of control of the situation. I was composed. I was calm. I was just focused, working on control the bleeding, and he felt that too, and he showed me so much love. And Sunday morning, I came to see him, see the cut, how I was healing, how did he feel, and he's just such a gentleman, and give me a good bonus.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, technically, obviously, we asked you to do this interview, and then TMZ interviewed, and you know you're getting all these requests for interviews. You played a very important part in that on that night. You played a very important part on that night. Like if it wasn't for your essentially your expertise in your job with that cut, like you said, when Tony Weeks told your team in the corner saying, you know what, that wasn't a headbutt, it was from a legal punch, that changed the whole game, right?
Yes, of course. You know, you gotta assume that that's a big responsibility, and you know how this game is. I mean, praise God, we got the victory, and the job got done. But imagine if you go the other side, I will be crucified by this time.
What did you think? What did you think about Tyson coming out and like the whole Mexican, you know, clothing, and then the sombrero, and then you know the whole, like he had the whole performance going on. What did you think about that?
Yeah, you know what? I feel really praised because, you know, he's a great human being. He feels a lot of sympathy for the Mexican people. He understands the La Raza. We are a hard worker people, you know, very very close to our families, to our values, to our heritage, to our culture, to our food. And he respects us a lot, man. He loves the Mexican boxing, the legends, you know. So for him, it was like when he came to me and said, I'm gonna carry this color with pride and glory. I feel happy to fight in this week in Mexican Independence Day. He was asking me about, you know, history about Mexico when we got independent in the 1800s from the Spain and all that, you know. So it was really, really, it feels really good. I feel really proud that a 6-7 foot Englishman come from the other side to the world to show love and support and give us pride to the Mexicans. It feels so good, man.
But Tyson obviously eventually got the win on the points. Did you get a chance to celebrate?
No, man. You know what? I was, to be honest, I was exhausted, man. You know, it was a big stress. So I just went to my room and just relaxed and I know that I'm in my gym right now. So, you know, it's just Monday. We gotta get back to work.
That's true. That's true. And then, you know, I wanted to ask you, since we're talking about Mexican Independence Day and you know, Tyson showing a lot of love for the Mexican people. What do you think about or what do you think about Andy Ruiz being, you know, the first Mexican or Mexican American, however you want to say it, to win the heavyweight world title?
Oh, you know, I feel really proud of him. I used to train him years ago, and you know, he's a very close friend of mine, and I feel really, really proud of him. I just saw him in this weekend. I saw him on Friday. We went to have dinner, and we have a good chat, and it feels tremendous, man. I feel really happy and very proud of Andy.
So if Tyson beats Wilder and Ruiz beats Joshua, would you like to see Tyson and Ruiz go at it?
Yeah, you know what? I gotta focus on what we have right now in front. That's what I told Andy the same. You know, he got already a deal for Joshua. We got already a deal with Wilder. I think that's what we have to be focused on, and just, you know, let the time tell us what's going to happen next.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're totally right. Well, you know, Jorge, we appreciate the time of you know, taking time out of your night, out of your day here on this Monday night to call into our show. As I said, a lot of people know your name now because you essentially saved that fight. And I think even Tyson Fury obviously knows that, you know, because that's what people were worried. You know, fans and even media members were saying, like, that was from a punch. Like, if that fight was stopped by the ringside doctors, like we said, like we keep repeating, then it would have been a TKO, and, you know, that would have been very unfortunate. So, you know, as I said, we appreciate you taking the time to call in. If you want to go ahead and promote anything you have coming up, I don't know if you're at the Top Rank gym right now or if it's your gym. Go ahead and promote any type of fighters you have or your gym. If you want,
yeah, I would like to first of all, I would like to praise God and give God the glory for the win. Thank you guys for having me in this program, and just invite all the people in Las Vegas to my gym, Capetillo and TM Boxing Gym, on the 3430 East Tropicana Avenue, Suite 60, Las Vegas, Nevada. Everybody's welcome to come and have a good time, or come to the classes, or just come and say hi. We're here to everybody, and just thank you again.
And then before you go, Jorge, can you give Tyson Fury a message in Spanish?
Sí, cómo no, quiero agradecerle a Tyson por la confianza, por permitirme trabajar en su esquina, Ben Davison también, y estamos muy, muy agradecidos, muy contentos por la victoria, y no nos queda más que darle gracias a Dios, porque salimos adelante, porque él salió sano, Otto salió sano del ring, y pudimos salir victoriosos. Y pues nada, nomás desearle lo mejor, que regrese a casa, que descanse, que vuelva a los suyos, a su familia, que sane bien y que esté de vuelta a trabajar cuando esté completamente sano.
Órale, así me gusta, así me gusta. Well, Jorge, muchas gracias. Thank you again for joining the last round. And then anytime you wanna go on and promote something or you need something to talk about in terms of fights, or if there's any cuts, you're more than welcome to come back on the show.
Okay, thank you guys. I really appreciate your time, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
That was a great get. Mike. I give you all that credit because you lined up that interview tonight. I give you all that credit. That was a great get, man.
He spoke well. At first, he said he didn't have the best English, but I thought that was a good interview.
Yeah. But that's why I told him, right before, for our listeners, right before we came on air, we spoke to him and I asked him if he spoke Spanish, and he said, yeah, I did. So, I speak Spanish. So I told him, if you ever get stuck, just say it in Spanish and I'll translate it. But no, he did it. He did it just fine. I thought for sure he would have been confused with your accent.
I did, yeah.
Because I was waiting for him to stop, and I was gonna have to jump in to say it with the American accent. But he didn't. Everything went perfectly fine. He was perfectly fine. So.
He was, he's been surrounded by Tyson, Ben Davidson.
Oh
Isaac
yeah,
Lowe,
he's got all those accents.
Yeah, so he's probably used to kind of figuring out the accent. And
yeah,
but it was good. Yeah.
No, yeah, and then I'm glad he got a chance to promote his gym too, Capetillo Gym, right there in Las Vegas. I think he said it's on Tropicana. So if you guys are out there, there's a top-ranked gym. I don't know if that's open to the public though.
I don't think so. That's just on the strip, just slightly off it.
Yeah. So if you're in Vegas, I know there's a couple gyms up there. But he's got his gym right there on Tropicana Capetillo Gym. Go check it out. Especially he's got a pretty solid stable of fighters that he's working with. Jorge Linares, I think he's Cesar Valenzuela, who beat Chimpa Gonzalez, the Golden Boy fighter. And then he also worked with Jesse Magdaleno. And obviously now he's working with Tyson Fury. So, he knows his stuff. So, I think he was essentially the MVP of the week in all the boxing cards that happened this week, DAZN, ESPN, Friday, Saturday, whatever. Jorge Capetillo, the cut man for Tyson Fury, was the MVP of the whole weekend. What did you say?
Oh, most definitely. Like you touched on with him, if it wasn't for him and his expertise, that fight could have easily been stopped. I think we'll probably dive into the fight now.
Yeah, let's just start talking about it.
So,
before that, when you were there, because you were obviously there ringside, ringside when you first were made aware of the cut.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think it was a punch? Or were you talking to other media members? Like, was that a punch? Was that a headbutt?
From where I was sat, it kind of happened on the ropes near me, and then Tyson kind of got off the ropes, and you could just see it pouring from his eyebrow. And at the time, I was unsure. I was thinking like, oh man, because they were kind of up close, and I was thinking, was it a headbutt? Was it a punch? Because you could kind of see both were kind of like up in close, and then eventually, on the video above the ring. I think after like a round or two, you could actually see it. It showed you a replay. Slow-mo of the actual punch landing from Otto Wallin. And at that time I was kind of like, started to think, I was like, oh my God, if it ends up being stopped, then it's from a punch. So, Tyson's going to end up losing.
Oof.
But one thing I wanted to, debate with you is, do you think that because it was Tyson Fury, he was the main man of the night, it was top rank, he was the home fighter, he's the payday?
You know what?
Is that the reason it didn't get stopped?
So as I mentioned already a couple times before, you were in Vegas for the ESPN card, Top Rank. I was in Carson for the DAZN Munguia card. And we were texting each other. You were telling me stuff and stuff like that. And I think that night we had kind of touched on that subject. And I think, obviously, Jorge Capetillo did a great job in keeping that cut, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Stemming the flow of the blood?
Yeah, he did his job. He did his job because, it obviously was very deep. And when it was like bleeding, it was bleeding a lot. But I wouldn't doubt, there's a high probability that if it was another fighter with a lesser name, it would have been stopped.
The one I was going to go to is the fight before Navarrete against Alottey.
Oh, that's right.
He got him into the corner. Navarrete was systematically beating the smaller man down. There was no cuts, but, there's underlying damage that you can't see to the brain and stuff like that, obviously. He gets him towards the corner, lands a few blows, referee jumps in.
Yeah, that's true. No,
and
right.
And then
who was the ref for that fight?
Oh, I don't know.
It wasn't Tony Weeks,
It was
right?
a long night, Danny. I can't remember that.
it was a long night after the fight.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Tony Weeks at the co-main, though, right? Because usually they don't do back-to-back.
No,
not all the time.
But look, another example of big famous fight that you could kind of compare this to, very similar cut, Lennox Lewis.
Klitschko? Yeah, that's true.
Very similar cut.
I think they were saying that on the broadcast during that fight. From what I was hearing is that, like, when that was happening, when he got the cut and obviously it got more and more, he started bleeding more. Somebody referenced, I don't know if it was Ward or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But referenced that fight, Lennox Lewis and Klitschko.
Right.
But man, I can just imagine, like, I'm glad that we got his cut man on, because, like, especially since he kind of like painted the picture saying, oh yeah, Tony Weeks came to the corner and said, oh, it was a headbutt. So right there, like, okay, cool. If they stop it, he'll be up on the cards. And then he comes back, a round or two later and says, that was actually from a punch. So, oh, hell no. That changes the whole entire game. You're just like, man, like, I mean, I can assume that the whole corner throughout, after hearing that news, was essentially like was just nervous as hell.
Yeah, because then, at any point, if they get a very stern doctor that decides just to, take it into his own hands, he can just call it off.
Yeah.
You can call him over to the corner and just say, no, that cut's in a bad place. It's constantly running into your eyes and you're essentially fighting with one eye.
Yeah. What do you think the doctor would say if somebody asked him that question? Like, hey, man, like, why didn't you stop it? Like, obviously they give him like, oh, I didn't feel it was like, I mean, because you're right, though. I think that's a valid question by saying that if it was any other fighter, not any other fighter, but obviously like a lesser name.
Just switch it to the other man that happens to Tyson Fury does it to Otto Wallin.
Do they stop the fight if it happens to Otto Wallin?
I goddamn guarantee they would have stopped it, to be honest with you.
Right. And then Tyson gets a TKO on his record.
Exactly.
So, I mean, obviously, we can't know that because whatever. But I think that's a valid question to ask, especially with how much money ESPN has invested in Tyson Fury. I mean, how much is he making on this agreement that he has? He's making a ton of money.
Like 10 to 15 million.
It's a lot.
Fight, I think.
It's a lot. So, I'm pretty sure ESPN would have been pissed off. Top Rank would have been pissed off,
One thing from the fight that I did take is it goes to show you the difference in IQ from, someone like Tyson Fury to Joshua, where Joshua failed to, come back from, getting beaten by Andy Ruiz and, wouldn't hug him, kept going back in lateral lines and stuff like that, where, Tyson Fury is that clever that you could see as soon as that cut was there, he would come in, chin down, head down, hiding the eye the whole time.
Yeah.
That just goes to show his boxing IQ.
That ability was good, yeah.
Yeah, he just, was coming in kind of like bent over the whole time, just protecting the eye, always covering away from it. And it just goes to show like how clever he is of a fighter. It made the fight very boring because,
But there was times where he was like, you can tell he was trying to finish it because I think he felt the urgency because of the cut.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you know what? If I can just finish this guy, then I don't have to worry about like them stopping the fight.
He also had a very good chin, looking at what he did during the fight. He ended up, he actually landed
30-1 underdog.
He landed the most punches of anyone who has ever faced Tyson Fury.
That's crazy.
He landed 127 punches. Deontay Wilder last year only landed 71.
That's insane.
And when he fought Klitschko only landed 52.
What?
Against a one-eyed Tyson, to be
What?
To lay it out there, it was a one-eyed Tyson. But Tyson did well. Like, I think, when he got that second cut underneath the actual eye, he came out that round, and like you said, I think he tried his best to try to finish him.
Yeah. You can see the urgency.
Yeah, at one point he had him like on the ropes, kind of where I was sat, and he just threw a left hook, landed, right hook, landed. But Otto Wallin, you could see he's got a good chin.
No, yeah, I think I'm glad because obviously that this fight got a lot of criticism because, obviously Fury is one of the best heavyweights in the world. He's obviously a very, very good boxer. He's a very good fighter, and there was rumors that they were trying to get Povetkin to fight him, but they turned it down. And he's fought Tom Schwartz and now Otto Wallin. So like because guys like Schwartz and Wallin, they don't have they're not high profile names. People were like, oh, why is this happening? But I'm so glad, even though like I said, like I mentioned, it was a 30-1 underdog for Wallin. I'm so glad that guy like showed up to fight because it made it that more exciting, especially because he cut him from his punches. He cut the guy, and like that's why we asked Jorge about that moment when they were clinching, and then Wallin kind of puts his right glove and kind of rubs Tyson's. I don't know if you've seen it on video yet, but Tyson looks furious after that.
Yeah, he kind of turned to the
So
referee.
furious after that. He was furious. I thought it was kind of funny. Like
it was clever.
It was clever. It was obviously it was dirty.
Yeah.
Obviously it was dirty, but I think Wallin knew like, hey man, I gotta do anything I can to win here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like what's something like Salido fighting Lomachenko.
Coming in heavy.
Or Maidana Mayweather won. Maidana was just, those hammer shots from the top and everything. And then like, that's what they did. Like, this is how I'm going to be able to at least try to get the win here. Like I'm probably not going to get it on the card. So I got to just keep trying and trying and trying. So like, yeah, it was a dirty move, but like in his position with like a low profile name and obviously being, would you call him the B side? Even though he is a B side, like, in comparison to Tyson's profile, he tried everything to win. I think he did. And I think he earned himself a couple more paydays with some significant fights.
Oh, no, I totally agree. And, you could see it was definitely a change from Schwartz, who kind of seemed happy to be there.
Right.
Otto Wallin came in, more serious, even from the weigh-in. He wasn't just a happy, smiley, joking around with Tyson. Tyson was trying to joke around with him, like putting funny faces and, kind of staring him down and looking at him and stuff like that. But it was definitely, I think, he made himself come out looking a little bit better because, obviously he came in with a lot of trash talk, like, who is this guy? He's not even the best heavyweight in Sweden, according to the box rec and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
But what did you make of John Fury's comments? Did you see John Fury's comments
on
BT Sport? So he came out just saying that that's the worst performance he's ever seen Tyson in his entire life.
Oh, wow.
Tyson should get rid of Ben Davidson and the whole team.
Wow.
They've made him into a circus, going on all these TV shows, and also saying that Tyson isn't an 18-stone fighter.
Huh.
He should be heavier, and that they've tried to make Tyson into a body beautiful where that's never what he's going to be.
Yeah.
And also saying that, he looked as weak as a kitten because he'd cut all that weight down to 18 stone.
I think John Fury wants him to be like his other son.
You got like Huey?
Yeah, Huey, who looks totally different body-wise.
Oh, you mean Tommy?
Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury.
Yeah, I don't think he'd ever be a Tommy, would he?
I think he would love Tyson to look like
yeah,
Tommy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so would I.
Yeah.
I'd like to look like Tommy.
But, that's surprising. I mean, like...
He's a very straight-talking man, John Fury. So you can, him coming and saying something like that is not overly surprising, but I can see where he's coming from, but at the same time, you have to think about his eye. That wasn't, he didn't go 12 rounds.
Yeah, I think the eye had a lot to, I mean, let's not take anything away from Otto Wallin's performance and that he came to fight. I don't want to make it seem like we're taking anything away from him, but let me pose this question to you. After Tyson Fury got that cut, regardless if it was by a headbutt or a punch, obviously it was deep, it was bleeding a lot. It was affecting him. It would affect any fighter's ability in the ring. But especially when Tony Weeks told them, hey, that was from a punch. I mean, mentally, you don't think that affects you? I mean, you can see it just in Tyson Fury's. After learning that news, like he was trying to finish it because I think he felt the urgency. Don't you think that affected it?
I totally agree. You know, I give Tyson a lot of respect for coming through and winning 12 rounds with essentially one eye. You could see he was pouring at it the whole time. You know, like I stated, like the way that he changed his fighting stance, he came in like essentially bending over to try and hide the eye, had his head down, his chin tucked in the whole time, just to try and get that eye away from him because he knew that Otto Wallin was literally just going to throw bombs at that eye the whole time to make it even worse. So the referee or the doctor comes in and just stops it. So, you know, John's Fury's comments seem a little bit harsh. If Tyson had gone 12 rounds with Otto Wallin with both eyes, then I would kind of be like, you know, he's maybe not as good as we think he is. And, you know, his entrance was better than the performance. So I think it's a little harsh, especially on, you know, Ben Davidson. But that's the second person now. We've had his dad and then Freddie Roach last time kind of talking trash on him. So,
oh, Freddie wasn't there this time, huh?
No, he wasn't in the corner this time.
That's true. He was there for the first fight, though.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, that's
I'm
right.
sure at those comments that he made about Ben Davidson, you were probably like, we don't need you in the corner anymore.
Probably, yeah. But, I mean, who knows? Who knows? We'll see how it goes. Okay. Really quickly, yes or no? Let's just do yes or no without diving in just because we're still a few months out. Does Wilder Fury 2 happen in February?
No, not in February.
I don't think so either.
March, April.
I don't think so either.
I think just the fact that it was somewhere between 45 to 50 stitches, depending on where you read. I think he's out of play for at least 45 days,
and Wilder still hasn't announced his next fight for Ortiz. So assuming they fight like in November or even December,
supposed to be like the 23rd.
The turnaround to February. It doesn't. And then Fury's got the cut. They got all the reasonings lined up right now for them to say, oh yeah, well he's got a big cut he has to recover from. And Wilder just fought 2 months ago, so they need more time to prepare. Yeah, so I could see it maybe April.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense time-wise.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it. We would love it in February. I kind of hope. I mean, obviously, we hope it does happen in February, but I don't see it realistically happening in February. But moving on, like you mentioned, the co-main event of that was Navarrete, who just fought essentially 5 weeks ago at the Bank of California Stadium down here in Southern California. Does a quick turnaround and fights Alottey, who's a Filipino fighter, right there at the T-Mobile Arena. What'd you think of that fight?
I thought they picked a good opponent for Navarrete to look good against, really. He was smaller. Actually, you know, he was a smaller, but he was a come-forward fighter, and he was one of those guys that you don't see very often. Did a Mike Tyson, like, left hook. He would lead with a left hook, which I thought was surprising against, you know, a taller, stronger guy. So it was perfect for Navarrete to look good in front of the Mexican fans.
I thought it was because I told you that I was at the StubHub Center or the Dignity Health Sports Park, whatever it's called now, for the DAZN Munguia card, Golden Boy, and there were some Filipino photographers seated next to me, right, they were there for Romero Duno, and on their phones they had the ESPN card, and they were as they were taking pictures, they were also watching that fight, the Navarrete Alottey fight, because Alottey is Filipino. And then tell me why those guys, as soon as Navarrete won, they were like, yeah, we did it. I asked them, I was like, hey, aren't you guys Filipino? They're like, oh, we put money on Navarrete. I was like,
nothing like backing your own.
Like, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. So I thought that was kind of funny that I wanted to mention that. But, you know, at least, you know, Navarrete, you know, came back quickly and he's fought twice in 1 month. I mean, who's the last world champion to fight twice in like a 5-week period? Literally, when's the last time that's happened? Regardless of the selection of opponents.
Munguia fought like 6 times last year.
I know, but
I don't know the difference.
But I don't think he fought
5 weeks
in 4 or 5 weeks.
No,
I think that's insane. So regardless of people saying, he fought, you know, some guy he was supposed to look good against. I mean, like, he just fought 5 weeks ago, and that fight down here in Southern California, he fought Panchito de Vaca, and like, yeah, he stopped him, but like, you know, it was, you know, he exerted some energy in that.
Yeah, he did. De Vaca started well in that fight.
Yeah.
I spoke to Ray Vargas in the crowd, and Ray Vargas was watching that fight. And he said he wants Navarrete next.
There you go.
Interesting fight. 2 giants of that division, literal giants of that division. So, and it'd be unifying the titles.
Yeah.
That'd be a good fight.
So we'll see. We'll see how it how it turns out. What else? Who else was on that
And
card?
then next on that card, we had Jose Pedraza.
Oh yeah, Pedraza,
and,
Chon
Jose
Zepeda.
Zepeda.
What?
Unanimous decision win for Zepeda for the vacant WBC United States super lightweight title.
Excuse me, what is that? You lost me there. Whatever, you lost me there. Let's move on. We're not going to touch on that. I like Chon Zepeda. I picked him before this fight, and I thought it was a good fight.
We tipped
on
it.
paper.
We tipped it. We fight of the night.
I think Zepeda, especially with his performance against Ramirez, I think was it earlier this year or last year, up in Fresno. I think just like Otto Wallin earned himself, some more paydays and some more significant fights. I think Zepeda with that Ramirez performance earlier this year earned some more significant fights, and obviously this one, I like Zepeda. I think Zepeda can get a world title.
He has an awkward style.
Yeah,
It's always like he's crouching.
but it works. It works.
Yeah, it does seem to work. He's always crouching and kind of like punches from weird angles. It's like he has like literally all of his weight on his back foot, just the way that he works. But it works for him. I thought he beat Ramirez. I thought the Pedraza fight was good, but I thought he won. And that division is red hot right now.
Yeah.
He's moved up, didn't he, to 140?
Yeah, he did.
So it's going to be a good fight. Hopefully he can get maybe like a Ramirez or even maybe like a Hooker fight.
Yeah, if he can fight Hooker, like Hooker comes back and gets a quick win to get back in the groove. But Zepeda against Hooker.
And all the belts, obviously, you kind of not all the belts. Some of the belts are tied.
Well,
up
no,
in
I think Hooker was going to move up. I think he mentioned
he needs to because obviously he struggled to make weight. And not the last fight.
I
but
think
the fight before.
Yeah, I think he was going to move up. You want to move on to the next card, or should we move on to the DAZN card?
We'll go to your card. We'll go Golden Boy card.
So let's go to the Golden Boy card, which happened essentially parallel to the ESPN Tyson Fury card. We'll start with the main event. Jaime Munguia retains his 154-pound WBO world title by stopping Patrick Alottey. Patrick Alottey. Some people pronounce it Alottey, like kind of like in Spanish, the word for corn is like elote. So some people were like saying that. I was like, what? That's actually pretty funny though. But I think it's Alottey. But yeah, Munguia, like I think when he found his rhythm, especially when he connected with those body shots, when he started hitting him to the body, that's when I knew. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's gonna eventually just stop him. Because you can see in Alotti's face when he started getting hit with those hooks to the body, like he was kind of wincing. I was like, ooh, okay, it's building up. It's building up. But I thought Munguia, I didn't think this was his first fight under the tutelage of Eric Morales as his trainer. I didn't really see anything different. He pretty much fought how he's always fought. He's that power puncher guy. He just comes at you like, if anything, he went more to the body than I've seen before, even though he has gone to the body before. But I mean, just in my opinion, being there, I don't know if I haven't watched it back on TV, which I might notice something different, but I didn't really notice anything different, with this new change of trainer. I mean, he looked good. And then in the post-fight press conference with us media there after the fight, he pretty much indicated without saying yes or no that he was probably going to move up to 160, which is good because, like, I mean, like, who has he really defended the title against at 154?
You think he's got the worst world title run of recent memory? Liam Smith, Brandon Cook, Takashi Inoue, Dennis Hogan, and Patrick Alottey. Patrick Alottey was rated 137th in the world.
I know, yeah. I mean, then he just needed.
How has he not fought one?
I mean, like, do you think that like Golden Boy or any of these guys, like, do you think they've tried to make offers for like Charlo,
no,
or anything like that, like, and then maybe Charlo just denied it, or PBC was just like, nah, like.
I think anybody.
If I was Charlo, I would have fought Munguia.
No, I think they probably wanted to. Liam Smith, who turned up for the fight after of that illness, he went straight back home to England and was doing interviews saying like, hey, if I had another camp, I would definitely fight him again.
Yeah,
because he was you could see holes in it. He has no footwork.
Yeah.
He has no head movement. He's like Homer Simpson when Homer Simpson boxed and just made the guy tired because the guy was just punching him in the head so much that the opponent got tired. That's what Munguia's like.
I like Munguia, and I'm glad the one. Obviously, the positive thing about him is that he's young and he's a big kid and he's got power, and he's got a fan-friendly style.
He's one of those where he got a world title too soon.
Right. But hey, it is what it is. It's working out regardless. I don't think Eric Morales is the trainer for him. I think that move was probably made more for like geographical purposes because Eric Morales lives in Mexico. I think they both live in TJ and Tijuana. And obviously Munguia's from there as well. And he trains down there in Mexico, so it's obviously convenient for both of them. But I think we were talking about this before we came on air, or even a couple days ago, probably Saturday. I could see Munguia with like an Abel Sanchez.
Yeah, I think every time he fights, we say this.
Yeah.
You need to look at the fighter and what he does and polish it. Because when he was with Robert Alcazar, I remember saying on the podcast, like, that's a fleet-footed Oscar De La Hoya type of trainer. You need to go, like, just looking at him, he's like a Mexican Triple G.
Yeah.
Using his characteristics.
That's why he should go with Abel Sanchez. I mean,
exactly.
Especially since Triple G left Abel Sanchez, like, he would get more attention. Very
flat-footed, but very powerful,
He's still got talent. He's young enough. He's still a young guy. What is he, 22 or I don't know.
He's young.
So, I think he's still going to be, I like the kid. Like I said, he has a fan-friendly style, and then being there was a ton of people there, whether they were there for Ryan Garcia or not. When Munguia came out, and especially when he got the win and when his name was announced, and then those people went wild for him. I don't know how it came across on the DAZN broadcast, but those people were 100% behind Munguia, especially when he stopped Alottey. Those people went wild. So he has the support. And if they can just keep, building him up, especially fighting him in front of crowds like that, I think it'll work for him. So, I'm expecting him to move to 160 and vacate that belt. And
what do you think of that move, though?
If he moves
There's
up,
some killers at 160.
Well, of course there is. But I think the kid already has trouble making 154. He's a big kid. He's 6. He's listed as 6 foot. And I mean, if you put him at 160, obviously they've been mentioning like, oh yeah, eventually Munguia and Canelo would be a good fight. And obviously there were some media members in the press conference after the fight asking them like, oh, what about a fight with Canelo? And obviously, because they're both in the same network and essentially the same promoter. And he said he was open to it, of course. And he was they asked him about Triple G, and he said he was obviously open to Triple G as well. He wants to get maybe 1 or 2 fights at 160 to get accustomed, and then see what's up. If I was him, I would go after Triple G first before Canelo, because Triple G is obviously older. He's still dangerous. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Triple G's, because he's older, he's still ridiculously dangerous. I'm not saying that, but if I was Munguia, I would prefer to go against Triple G before I even go to Canelo. Because if they're really going to try to... Because imagine this. If Munguia does move up to 160 and for the next, let's just say 3 years, he fights and he wins. Let's just say he fights... What's a good number in the next 2 years, 3 years? How many fights at 160? He starts
fighting actual contenders, 4 or 5 fights.
Let's just say 5 or 6 fights in the next 2 years, 3 years, or whatever. 5 years, or 2 years. And he wins all of those. And at the same time, he's building his name.
I'll make him 38-0.
Exactly. Imagine that building towards a Canelo fight, Mexican versus Mexican. I think that'd be huge.
Well, I think that's what they've been doing. That's why
obviously they want that.
Yeah, they want the big, go to maybe even a soccer stadium in like Mexico City or somewhere like that. Sell out 80,000 people. That's why he's been fighting. Your Patrick Alottey, your Takashi Inoue's like. I think they know that, he had a world title, but he really wasn't world class.
Yeah.
And that was why they've kind of wrapped him in cotton wool, and they've managed to get away with, like 5 defenses against, I would say Liam Smith's probably the best fighter he's fought.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
And then he really lost to Dennis Hogan just looking that the fight was in Mexico.
When we asked him in the post-fight too about Dennis Hogan, would you rematch him? And he said, yeah. So
he's not going to say no.
Yeah, he's not going to say no, but he said, yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is, but, he retained his world title at 154, and it's likely that he's going to move up to 160. So I'm sure that belt will be vacated, and we'll see where that belt goes. I don't think Top Rank has anybody at 154 WBO.
Dennis Hogan should really get a shot, and he should be first in line.
You never know. So the co-main event, which was changed, obviously, and we'll touch on it in a little bit, was 168-pound junior middleweight. Not 168. Was it 168? the middleweight, junior middleweight. I think it was junior middleweight.
So for the female fight,
Yeah,
super middleweight.
Super middleweight.
Franchon Cruz de Zern, if I pronounced that correctly, against 2 days standing Maricela Cornejo. Is that how you pronounce that?
Cornejo. Which this was a rematch. Cruz de Zern actually beat Cornejo the first time and beat her again this past Saturday in a unanimous decision win. And she also this was the vacant WBO super middleweight title was also on the line. So Cruz de Zern picked up that belt as well. I didn't know that her husband is also a fighter. I think his name is Glenn de Zern or Glenn, something like that. I found out there. I was like, oh, so he's a current fighter right now. I think he's current. I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, married couple. They're both professional fighters. That's pretty cool. So she got the W. I don't know if people remember her, but like I think her pro debut was against Clarissa Shields, or I think both of them had their pro debut against each other, and Clarissa Shields I think beat her. Well, obviously beat her. But Cruz de Zern's obviously doing pretty well right now. She's like 5-6-1. 6-1 now.
I've only lost being to Clarissa Shields on her debut.
So hey, not a bad resume to have right now. So and then touching on what the co-main was actually supposed to be, Ryan Garcia, your favorite and mine, was scheduled to fight Usher's fighter. Yeah, that's right. That Usher, your favorite singer and mine. Avery Sparrow, who was arrested on Friday, the day of the weigh-in, the day before the fight. He was arrested by the United States Marshals. And then for like our fans across the pond, the United States Marshals is the oldest law enforcement agency in the United States. They're the oldest law enforcement agency in the United States. And who would you compare them to in England?
I think really have an equivalent, really.
Like they're like the federal government. Like they're the feds.
Scotland Yard, maybe.
They're the feds, and like they came and they picked him up. They picked him up for reportedly that he had a domestic dispute, and he was brandishing a weapon, like a handgun.
Supposedly back in April he had a domestic dispute. He went to his girlfriend's house or whatever, and she'd locked him out, and she was throwing his clothes out the window. He got into an argument with her and pulled out a handgun, was waving it around.
Yeah.
So since April they've been looking to speak to him, but rumor was I heard that Golden Boy contacted them because they heard that they were looking for him, and called the Philadelphia Police Department and said like, hey, we have him here. He's getting paid $50,000. We'll send him back home on a flight after the fight, and then you can arrest him as soon as he lands in Philadelphia, supposedly.
That's crazy, man.
And they agreed to it. Obviously, someone didn't tell the U.S. Marshals who were also looking for him due to the warrant.
They should have just arrested him right after the fight. You know what attention that would have gave DAZN? It would have been like a movie.
It was just weird that the fact he's been on TV all week.
Yeah.
They knew where he was.
He wasn't hiding.
No.
But, obviously that's the setup to the whole conversation, and we want to touch on that because we are wrapping up here. Because Ryan Garcia obviously is a draw, especially in Southern California, and there was a lot of people who likely showed up for him. He's got a teenage girl fan base, essentially. Maybe teenage boys too, who knows? And obviously his fight fell through, and then the back and forth between his team and Golden Boy, which is his promoter. Okay, just a straightforward question. Obviously Garcia says that he wasn't offered a backup because originally they wanted him to reportedly fight Romero Duno, and they said no. Reportedly. Well, we want to throw that out there because everybody's one side or the other. We don't know exactly what's going on. We're hearing this, we're hearing that. And he denied it, so they got Avery Sparrow, who, by the way, is a lower weight class. He came up from like 126 or something like that.
Just like the rest of Ryan Garcia's opponents.
Just like the rest of them. So he's fighting Avery Sparrow. That falls through. And then Golden Boy comes out and says that they offered him Romero Duno. They're like, hey, Duno said he's willing to fight you still. So fight Duno on Saturday. And Eric Gomez tweets out that says Ryan Garcia denied it and said, oh, Duno was too tough. And he didn't want to fight him. Oh, wow. Well, where is this going to start? I texted you right after. I was like, oh, man, you gotta look at social media right now. This thing's about to blow up. And then Garcia comes in and starts tweeting back defending himself, saying he wasn't offered, and then like, they start going back and forth, and then Eric Gomez comes out with a subsequent tweet and clarifies and says it wasn't Ryan who said this, it was his team who said they didn't want to fight Duno. They wanted they prepared for every sparrow, whatever, and then that he wanted more money. Point blank, who do you believe here?
Golden Boy.
Me too.
Just because I feel that if I was Ryan, I would turn down Duno.
No, right.
I would turn down those other fights.
But imagine if he would have said,
he's got no chin.
Imagine if he would have said like, all right, let's do it, and he would have beat Duno. You know how much his stock would have rose, especially with the hardcore fans.
His stock would have rose with me because every time we talk about him, I poo-poo him a bit. But
I know.
If he'd have gone in there and knocked out,
he's right. The kid is right though. We don't know what his contract states and all that stuff. Like, only they know what his contract states, like the wording in it. We don't know if it's like, okay, per fight basis, depending on how much you're drawing, how much you're drawing in the previous fights. It's depending on how much you're going to get paid in the next fights, depending on the opponent and stuff like that. There might be language like that. I mean, who knows if it's like a set amount of money that's spread out over a certain amount of fights. We don't know that. But obviously, in terms of drawing power, obviously he's shown, even though he hasn't fought like on Staples Center and stuff like that. He's fought like Fantasy Springs, StubHub and stuff like that. He's shown that people show up for him. He's right in that. He's right. And then his social media, if you really want to count that, he's obviously popular.
3 million followers on Instagram.
So, in terms of drawing power, you can't deny that. But, we haven't heard a detailed number in what he actually requested. Obviously, they wanted more money. And I think
four times, according to Guru. His purse
supposedly
was 50,000 for that fight, and supposedly to fight Duno, he wanted four times.
And then Golden Boy said, "Okay, you don't have to fight Duno. How about Peter Petrov?"
He would have knocked him out.
And he denied Peter Petrov. So, I don't know, man. Only they know exactly what's going on. And then Ryan and his mom and dad, and then their new attorney Guadalupe Valencia, who represents like PBC fighters, which I think was a crazy move. Like, you're gonna get honestly, I think that relationship isn't going to last. I honestly think Ryan wants to go to PBC. And honestly, if I was Golden Boy, I would let him go. Just let him,
Do a Mayweather and buy yourself out your contract, if you can. I'll get PBC to buy him out.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's obviously like PBC would want to take. I mean, Leonard Ellerby from Mayweather Promotions has wished him a happy birthday this year. And people were like, oh, why are you wishing him a happy birthday? And I think he like released like a tweet saying, oh, why can't I tell him happy birthday? I'm just saying, like, what they're doing? They're subconsciously trying to throw it out there, like, hey, you should come to us. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like, we'll touch on that later because that's a longer conversation. There's a lot more in depth to that. But I'm leaning towards believing Golden Boy here. But like I said, these are all just reports that we're hearing from both sides. But and I think the most interesting part is for Golden Boy, and the part they should be nervous about is that Canelo was retweeting Ryan's tweets. So
like kind of like he's supporting it. He agrees.
So like, I mean, if you lose Ryan, well, crap. All right. If you get Canelo pissed off and you lose Canelo, man, you got to figure it out there. And then De La Hoya said in the DAZN interview during the fight on Saturday, he said it's unfortunate that, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said pretty much that it's unfortunate there's some people speaking in fighters' ears and they're listening to them because ultimately it affects the fighters negatively. So he was pretty much saying, I think he was pretty much calling out their new advisor, lawyer, Guadalupe Valencia, pretty much saying like, hey man, you're the one that's talking all this smack to the kid and you're creating this situation. That was a shot. That was shots fired right there. So I don't know, man. I think that whole I don't think that relationship is going to last realistically, but we'll see. There's a press conference for Kovalev Canelo this week, Canelo Kovalev, and I'm sure Canelo's going to get some Ryan Garcia questions. I mean, we'll see. I'm looking forward to see that. But do we have any fights this week?
Only fight is Peter Quinlan and Alfredo Angulo.
Alfredo Angulo, El Perro Angulo. I mean, it is what it is. That fight was off, and now it's on again. So I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. Is that on Saturday?
So Saturday the 21st from the Robano Theatre, Bakersfield, Fox Sports 1, Peter Quinlan, 34-1-1 against Alfredo Angulo, 25-7.
Well, we'll see how that goes, and we'll see.
Peter Quinlan wins that quite easily. Angulo's over the hill.
He should.
I
But
think Angulo's just looking for paydays.
you never know. But we'll see how that fight turns out, and let them do their thing. Bakersfield needs a fight. I don't think they've had a prominent fight in a while up there. But once again, we'd like to thank Tyson Fury's cut man and MVP of the weekend, Jorge Capetillo. If you're in Vegas and you want to train, go to Capetillo Gym right there at Tropicana. We'd like to thank him for coming on and talking about his job this past Saturday and stopping that cut and obviously, help saving the fight and getting Tyson the win. That was an awesome conversation with him. And you want anything to add? Social media?
Nick, at La Last Round 12 on Twitter and Instagram, and be sure to tune in next week where they'll be previewing the big Errol Spence fight against Sean Porter and obviously Durrell against Benavidez on the undercard, which is the 28th.
All right. Well, once again, thank you guys for listening to episode 48 of the Last Round podcast. I'm Danny Z. For my co-host, Michael Shepard, this is the Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is the Last Round podcast.